Well, Max, you got me out here in the middle of nowhere. What are we doing?
Well, we've had my lift kit on for about a year now. Had some time to off-road it a bunch, get to know it, get to know what it's capable of. So we wanted to take a second to make a review video, show you guys what she's capable of, and what we like about it. That way you can make an informed decision.
Well, first off, it's huge. How big is it?
So I got a 8-inch, maybe 8.5-inch lift kit. It's from Rusty's. It's their long arm kit. It's the same long arm you'd get if you buy any Rusty's long arm lift, 4.5, 6.5, 8.5.
And shock option, what'd you get?
I went all the way at the time. I believe they're the RX 200s. At the time, that was the best shock they make, short of having an external reservoir. Now they've got an RX 800. I don't have those ones. I've got the 200s. I like it. They're a lot beefier than your standard factory shock.
They're nitrogen charged.
The tubing on them is way beefier. They're meant to withstand some stuff.
So what are your thoughts on the installation of this lift kit?
It's not too bad. Being a long arm, it's a lot of work, but it's not that bad. We did it in the driveway. You can do it in your driveway too if you've got some general skill. You're going to have to cut the factory control arm mounts off the Jeep, so you're going to have something to cut it with. You're going to have a good drill. You need to drill a couple decent sized holes into the unibody, and I would say that's one of the more difficult parts. The holes need to be nice and straight, and you might have to reach in and waller them out a little bit to get the frame plates to line up. I think we spent the most amount of time on just getting those holes right. We wanted to do it right the first time, not have to come back and mess with it later. So we took our time and did it right the first time.
And what he's talking about, it's no fault of Rusty's. It's the fact that these Cherokees are unibody construction, and no two are exactly alike. So, you know, over time, especially if you wheel one, the chassis can actually bend or flex and twist. Or if you beat the crap out of the bottom end of it and bend it and bang it up, you might have to massage things a little bit to get everything to line up. That's what we ended up having to run with, and it took us a little bit of time to get all the holes lined up. It wasn't any fault of the lift manufacturer. It was more just the state of the Jeep that we had.
What you're doing is you're drilling roughly a 1-inch diameter hole through probably 4, maybe 5 layers of sheet metal that comprise the unibody, because you need a 1-inch dowel to go into that hole so that the flame plates can basically brace off of each other and sandwich the unibody
without crushing it. So
that's the deal, is you're drilling through multiple layers of steel. It's not difficult, it's just time consuming. Just be prepared for it. Don't plan on doing it in a rush, and you'll get it done.
Other than that, they do market this kit as a complete bolt-on, which it is. There is no welding involved. You do need to cut, like he said, your factory control arm brackets off the frame side and drill a couple of holes. But other than that, any guy could do this in the driveway with basic tools.
One thing I really liked about it, Rusty's pre-tells you the lengths to set your adjustable control arms at. So they tell you for this much lift, set them at this length. So we measured it out before we put them on, and well, I think the first time we drove it, she drove real nice and straight. I was very happy with it.
Yeah, it got us real close.
All right, guys, I've got one of the upper control arms that comes with this lift kit here. Wanted to show it to you. One thing I was concerned when I bought the lift, I wanted something really strong. We rock crawl out here in New Mexico. I wanted something that can take a beating. This tube is 2-inch diameter. It is super beefy. You are not going to bend their arms. They're amazing. You've got a few options when it comes to the joints on the end. On the end, they have a forged rubber one. It's a Cleveite type. I personally did not go with that. I want something that's going to flex a little bit more. I'm going to sacrifice a little bit of on-road ride quality and gain a lot of off-road capability. So I went with their flex joints. It's forged, it's adjustable. You can set the preload as it starts to wear out. They give you a special tool that you put right here. You tighten down on it. Once it's really wore out, it's rebuildable. Take it apart, put all new parts in it, and slap her back together. It's also greasable. I love that it's greasable. Every time we're working on my Jeep, we grab the grease gun, crawl around it, and grease every single joint. That was my biggest thing with this lift kit, is everything is super beefy. I cannot imagine breaking any of these parts. One thing I wanted to mention to you guys, there's a jam nut on here. If it loosens up, then the joint can move a little bit, but what really is going to happen is it's going to load in and out, and it's going to put pressure on the threads in and out, and over time with this jam nut loose, it could begin to weaken and prematurely fail. You always want to make sure you keep these jam nuts tight. Whenever you're giving your Jeep a once over, just tighten these jam nuts up, make sure they're good and tight, put a wrench on them. Shouldn't have any issues. I've heard of some failures, and from what I've read online, it makes sense that most of these failures are coming from having the jam nuts loose. Keep the jam nuts good and tight, you won't have any problems. We've driven out to Moab within a few months of putting this thing together. We were out in Moab for a week, beat the snot out of it, drove it back. I now daily drive this Jeep. We wrench on it on the weekends, wheel on the weekends, and I daily drive it to work every day. It's gonna hold up for you. Could not be more impressed.
So one thing I wanted to point out to all you guys while he's getting some B-roll footage is this thing hasn't been painted, washed, or otherwise cleaned except by Mother Nature since we built it over a year ago. So you can definitely tell that she's been beat on and rode hard and put up wet. So Max, what all does this lift kit come with?
Well, when you order it, you've got a few choices when it comes to the long arms. They've got a standard one and a high clearance one. The high clearance one just has a slightly different bend in it. It allows you to clear rocks a little bit better. It clears your tires really well. I pretty much never rub mine. I love the high clearance arms. Couldn't be happier with those. It's going to come with, those are adjustable. It's going to come with adjustable upper arms with the choice of ends that I told you about earlier.
And they're radius arms.
It's going to come with a adjustable track bar as well as a frame side track bar support. And it's also got a support that ties in going across the frame rails to also support the track bar. I really like that. It's something I haven't seen from as many of the other companies. It's got extended brake lines. They're excellent quality. I love them.
They're steel braided and they're coated.
It's got, in the front, it's got the coil springs and the shocks. In the rear, it has the leaf pack. And then when you go with the 8-inch lift, instead of doing a lift block, mine has, and I think all of them come with it, it's got a 6-inch leaf pack and then a 2-inch greasable shackle instead of a lift block. I really like the 2-inch lift shackle that's greasable. Could not be happier with that. Oh, it also came with a drop pitman arm. Really helped get your steering and everything lining up as it should. Worked great. Last major component that this kit comes with is it comes with the plates that sandwich the unibody, and then to those plates mounts the new transmission cross member, which it drops the transfer case down a little bit, and everything mounts to that. The radius arms, they'll come back and mount to it. And then if you want to, you can purchase skid plates from Rusty's that are pre-designed to mount right up with that as well. One day I'm hoping to purchase those. I just haven't gotten them yet. Being lifted 8 inches on 37s, it's not very common that I drag. Well, one thing I wanted to mention, the kit does also come with brackets so that you can set up your sway bar and have it be adjustable sway bar end links. We didn't put them on. I don't have any sway bars on this Jeep. Goes down the road amazing. I don't have to disconnect them when I get off-road. I can go straight from pavement to off-road, deflexing amazing. I've never had it bind. The only thing I recommend you doing is setting up your bump stops. It'll flex insane. Make sure you set your bump stops.
The kit doesn't come with any kind of bump stop extensions or anything like that, because it's up to you running a lift this high if you want to cut fenders and run a larger tire, or if you want to keep your stock fenders where they are and run a smaller tire. All that is going to depend how much bump stop you need. So it's easy enough to measure for it and just grab some bump stop spacers or extended bump stops after you put your lift in with your tires and all that. What else is needed whenever you're going to put this lift kit in?
If you're going to go with the long arm lift, you're probably going tall. You're probably going more than 4, likely 6 or 8 inches. Anytime you go over 4 inches, you need a slip yoke eliminator in a Cherokee. They just don't perform after that height. Advanced Adapters makes an amazing one, and you're going to need a new drive shaft. Rusty's has the best deal I have managed to find. It is in the ballpark of $500 for their Advanced Adapter Slip Yoke Eliminator and drive shaft combo. They're going to mail you everything out. Once you get the lift kit installed, you're going to measure how long your drive shaft is, call them up. It's going to be a Tom Woods drive shaft, and they'll have it made and send it out to you. Could not be happier with that process. I will say they do include a shim so that you can change your pinion angle of your rear axle. We installed it at first and realized with my setup, everything that I'm running, I didn't need it. We took it back out. We're not using it. All we're using is the Slip Yoke Eliminator and the drive shaft. Another thing, if you're going this tall, let's be realistic, you're gonna run big tires. With big tires, you need gearing. I highly recommend it. Rusty's has an amazing deal on their gearing. I called several shops in town asking, who could install my gears and what prices they could get me. Rusty's carries Motive gear. I called a shop here local in Albuquerque, and I told them the price that I could get the Rusty's Motive gear set and master rebuild kit for. And the shop I spoke with said he couldn't even purchase the gears for that price. And he highly recommended that I buy them through Rusty's and then take and have someone local in town install them in my axles. Could not be happier. They're exactly what I needed. This thing performs amazing. I'm on 37s and I'm running 488s. Me personally, I don't think a guy should go any bigger than 488s in a Dana 30. That's just my preference. They get weak beyond that, so it's what I went with. I've got enough power. It does everything I need it to do.
So Max, what else can you think of that you might want to recommend to somebody if they're going on for a lift larger than 4 to 6 inches and tires larger than about a 35?
So, like we said earlier, this is a unibody Jeep. Most aren't. It doesn't have a real frame. They do bend. You'll hear of all kinds of people saying they got twisted up and they couldn't open their doors anymore. It's because it bends. I highly recommend you put frame stiffeners on. If you can weld, go ahead, do it yourself, or get with a buddy you know, or take it to a shop. You need frame stiffeners. What we did is, because they have the frame plates that sandwich the unibody rails, we chunked that piece out of the frame stiffener, and the frame stiffener comes all the way from the front bumper in front of it, stops right at the frame plate. There's the frame plate for the lift kit, and then as soon as the frame plate stops, my frame stiffener starts back up and goes all the way to the rear. It's amazing. I can flex like crazy. You'll get a few creaks and pops. It's a unibody, it happens. I can park all flexed out, open every single door, no problem. I haven't bent anything. If you're doing this kind of stuff that we're doing, we highly recommend you weld them on. If you want your Cherokee to last any amount of time, weld them on before you destroy it, because once the unibody's trash, there's no fixing it.
One last thing we would like to add, guys, is we want to say that we are in no way affiliated or sponsored by Rusty's. They didn't give us any discounts on any of these parts. We paid full price out of our own pockets for them, and we're not getting paid to say all these great things about it. We really are this impressed and this satisfied with it. Another thing that I've seen online, all the 4M warriors out there, anytime Rusty's comes up, they all say, oh, their customer service, their quality. I have bought something from Rusty's, and I had an issue that was not related to the part. It wasn't even a Rusty's product. It was just bought through Rusty's site. I had it sent back and forth a couple of times because I was receiving the wrong parts in the kit. Every time I called, the Rusty's customer service team was very courteous. They listened to what I had to say, and they took care of me right on the spot. I know that we have had a couple of issues because a lot of our setup on this is custom with different axles and whatnot. So when nothing fit quite right, or a couple of things didn't fit quite right.
That's our fault, not the fault of Rusty's. Yep. It's because we want it to be difficult. I wanted to do things different than most, but they helped us out. I called, when you call, the person that normally answers the phone can answer most tech-related questions. If they can't answer the question, they'll happily transfer you right to their tech department, who will talk you through whatever you're doing. If you're still having problems, in our personal experience, several times we've been transferred directly to Rusty himself. Normally answers the phone, "Hey, how's it going? What can I do for you?" I've not worked with many major companies that have given that level of customer service. One particular instance, the reason I have a spare control arm, I used a truss. My control arm mounts are slightly off from all the spots where they should be. The factory, the ones they sent out were a little bit too long for my use. So I called them up and said, "Hey, I need some control arms that are roughly an inch shorter." I gave them the dimensions, so I need them quick. I don't have time to make them myself. Can you guys do this? I said, "Yeah, no problem." They charged me the same price as buying a regular off-the-shelf control arm, and I think it was at my house within a week, week and a half. The only thing was, it wasn't powder coated because they made it right then and there for me and shipped it right away. I didn't want it powder coated. I wanted it on my Jeep so I could start driving. Couldn't be happier. I love their customer service. Last thing, they do support military. If you're military, make sure you mention it. They'll give you a discount. That's the only discount we received on this stuff, is military. We love the product so much, I would build this Jeep over again in a heartbeat. Just wanted you guys to know about it. I see people asking in forums a lot, which long arm kit should I get? Wanted to inform you about this one. I don't know about the others, but I know a lot about this one.